This is the Domain Magnet Show, where you'll learn everything you need to know about buying, optimizing, and selling online businesses with your host, Michael Beroslavsky.
Welcome. Today we have with us Daniel Peleg from Email Compost. Daniel is an expert on email marketing and paid ads. And so I'm excited to discuss about some quick tips people can use on how to improve their email marketing, email conversions right away. And also the different ways that you can assess the value of an email list when you buy an online business. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to join. So we've actually been in touch for quite a few years now. Yeah, we've met a few times back in Chiang Mai, and nice to reconnect.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Tell us briefly about your main business, what you do.
The business is called Email Compost, and we work with e-commerce brands that sell physical products off Amazon. So selling on their own website. And in terms of size, we mostly work with businesses with an annual revenue in the 7 to 8 figure range. Now, a lot of e-commerce brands have serious challenges growing their market share and scaling because of things like ad costs going up or because of revenue leaks in different parts of their customer journey. So what we do is we have a done for you program that works with 7 to 8 figure e-com brands, and we build an email marketing strategy that covers their entire customer life cycle. So they can increase their overall revenue by anything from 25% to 40%, and sometimes more, which also enables them to scale quicker.
All right, very cool. So I'm guessing for e-commerce, email is probably pretty important, right? I'm frankly not an expert on e-commerce, so enlighten me. How much would you say is like for an average e-commerce store in 7, 8 figures, how much of the income is coming from email, would you say? What percentage of their sales?
So it is usually, so what we see when many e-commerce brands first approach us, it's interesting how email for them is almost like an afterthought, or sometimes they know it's a strong lever to pull, but they don't have enough bandwidth or expertise to really make the most out of it. So so what we usually see when they come to us is that they have around 5% of their revenue coming from email, sometimes 10%, sometimes a little bit more. While what we aim for is usually anything above 25%. So it could be 30%, 35%, or sometimes even more.
Okay, very cool. And if you look at some really big brands, do you have any idea how much of the revenue comes from their sales come from email? Like I don't know, Adidas or Reebok or any of the really big brands?
Well, it's a whole different beast there. But I would say for listeners, mostly I would guess they would be around the 7 to 8 figure range, or sometimes 9 figure. Then the numbers I said were so anything around 30% would be actually what we expect. Now, it's a strong lever at 30%, and it's both in terms of how much revenue you can generate, but it's also with the customer experience that can be so much better with emails. And we can talk about that if you want.
Yeah, sure. So that's pretty cool. 30%.
Cool, yeah,
that is significant. So right off the bat, can you give me like one quick tip of how what most people don't do, for example, that can quickly improve the email conversions? What's like the one easy thing people can do for it?
Okay, yeah, let's talk a little bit about cart abandonment, because it's a very famous way of salvaging sales. So basically, what it means, cart abandonment, is when someone is just on the verge of checking out or completing their purchase, but they end up exiting without buying. So the goal of the cart abandonment automated sequence or flow is to get them back to where they left off. So if they abandon their checkout, get them back to the checkout stage. Now, one thing that stores tend to miss with it is that sometimes the customer only adds products to their cart, which is still high buying intent, but they didn't proceed to checkout. So you want to salvage these sales too. But most stores aren't aware of this distinction between checkout abandonment and added to cart abandonment. And so they miss out on a ton of sales. So you actually need two flows if you want to cover the entire abandonment journey. And by the way, we have a free masterclass on our site that teaches all of our abandoned cart strategies and how to set things up and really how to maximize the revenue that they generate. So if you want, I can give the link for anyone who's interested.
Yeah, sure. We can include the link in the notes. So if I understand it, what you're saying is most stores, they only send some special email sequences to people who put the item in the cart and then clicked for checkout, but then didn't pay or didn't finish the transaction, while a lot of people just add things to the cart and then basically don't go to the checkout. So then that doesn't trigger the email sequence. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah, so I actually do that a lot now that I think about it. And if I'm shopping on Amazon or elsewhere, I often just add something to cart and then maybe get distracted or decide to buy it later and don't do anything. So that is an interesting idea.
Yeah. Another thing is that with discount, because as you said, a lot of people don't realize it, but for example, with pop-ups, whenever you go into an e-commerce site, you would usually get a pop-up at some point. Either it pops immediately or after you browse the site a little bit. And a lot of store owners ask themselves whether they should give a discount at all. And if yes, then how much discount? So on the one hand, you might be concerned that a discount would attract bargain hunters. They just want to buy once and then move elsewhere instead of potential loyal customers. And on the other hand, a discount is a very strong incentive to sign up to your list. Now, every business is different, but for the vast majority of brands, a discount on the pop-up will at least double or triple the number of signups. So if you care about growing your list, it's hard not to go for it. But it's not only about the number of lead signups. We've seen, and Klaviyo research also supports it across different kinds of brands, that a pop-up with a discount almost doubles the number of first-time purchases. And the brands who offer the discount saw up to 4 times more repeat purchases as well. Now, everything needs to be tested and split tested, and we do that. But we have a clear picture about how effective a discount offer is over any other type of offer on a pop-up. Now, only issue is with brands that don't want to offer discounts because of branding reasons. Several of our clients are more high-end or luxury brands. And so we need to work around that and find maybe other incentives to sign up that don't involve a discount, depending on what the products are. And this could be free shipping or a small gift when you place an order, things like that. But the evidence is overwhelmingly high that discounts double or triple or even quadruple the results that you get.
And what's the best timing for offering this pop-up? Do you do it after the person spends some time on the site, after they maybe added something to the cart, or right away?
Yeah, we do tests about it and make sure that the timing is right for that particular audience and type of product and industry and so on. But in most cases, you don't want to pop it up immediately when someone enters the site, but rather wait at least for a few seconds. You can also check your Google Analytics and kind of understand the way that people interact with your site and how much are they spending until they buy or until they exit. And then you can tune up the pop-up accordingly.
And what about all the people who would have bought without the discount and they are going to buy, and now suddenly there is a 10% discount and they think, oh, okay, that's nice. I'll just get that discount then.
So that's what I meant when I said that you might be concerned that you would be attracting the wrong crowd, but the research is very clear about it. While you always get those people who are bargain hunters, you will net, when you look at your net profit, it would always be higher.
All right, very cool. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And then let's talk a little bit back. So when it comes to building a list, let's say you have an established or a new e-commerce store. How would you kind of start warming up and building a list sequence? Where do you start basically when you look at it?
At the beginning, if you have no traffic and no sales, probably email wouldn't be the first thing that I would set up. So you start putting a pop-up on your site. When you have a few hundred subscribers, you build the basic automations that would either greet new leads who sign up for the pop-up, or people who abandon their carts, or people who purchase, and you want to get them kind of a nicer experience, a nicer customer experience. So you would do that. I'd say if you're thinking of hiring someone like our team to build advanced flows and manage campaigns, then you should probably be already having at least around the 10,000 subscribers or so. But if your subscriber base is smaller, then probably basic automations would do the trick. But I think, in general, when we're talking about e-commerce businesses, it's really important to have this in place, especially if you've already got the traffic and you already got subscribers. It's a really strong lever, and the reason that it's so effective, I think there are a few reasons that we should be aware about. First of all, it's very predictable. So if we're talking about brands who are already doing social media advertising, you never know when your CPA is gonna shoot through the roof for some reason, or there's an iOS update, or Facebook decides to arbitrarily shut down your account. But with email, because you have so much control, you can plan exactly what messages you're going to send. And when we look at historical data of an email account and what's the subscriber growth and what are the conversion rates of email campaigns and so on, we're able to predict with high accuracy how much revenue we'll be getting from those emails in the next month or the next quarter. Now, the second thing that you got to remember with emails is it's owned media. Owned media means you don't have to pay anyone to get in front of your audience, unlike Instagram or Facebook or other platforms. And because it's an audience that you exclusively own, you don't need to abide by their rules and twist your creatives and messaging to fit what works best for Facebook algorithm. You're free to express your messaging and your brand in any way that serves you best. And you're free to contact your audience anytime you want and without paying for it. Now, the third reason why I think email is so successful, and this is crucial in today's marketing, personalization. For every person who's on your list, you know what stage they are in your journey, such as right before a buying decision or right after their first purchase or when they made a repeat purchase, things like that. So you also know what they're interested in and what actions they're taking and a lot of other data points. And with all that, you can customize your messages in a very granular way to be able to send them the right message at the right time, which is what we always want. Now, another thing to note is that it's a very cost-effective mechanism for getting repeat sales. Especially now with rising CPAs, often the first purchase isn't where the big money is. And with emails, it's pretty straightforward and automated to get someone to come back and buy again and again. We can talk about it later if you want. And the other reason is that the return on investment is so much higher than anything out there, anything else. Your expenses are basically the email platform, which you pay according to the number of active subscribers or cents usually. And if you're new, then it might not make sense to get like the most expensive platform. But as soon as you are in the 6 to 7 figure range annual revenue, the email platform costs are quite negligible. And then you have the cost of the team that creates the emails, the copywriting, graphic design, scheduling the emails, and so on. So whether you have a team in-house that does it or you hire an outside team for that, now if you're in the 7 to 8 figure range, you can probably get these monthly costs covered within literally the first days of the emails running. And anything after that throughout the month is pure profit. So the ROI is so obvious and high. So if you look at how the email channel is so profitable and predictable and has a high return on investment, that's what excites me so much about it. And I believe that this is a channel that every e-commerce business should be putting their focus on as soon as they have traffic, if they really want to grow and grow quicker.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. It's free. You own it. Everyone should be using email more for sure. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and it's easy and it's cheap and predictable. I agree. And so, can you walk us briefly through what would a typical campaign look like? Let's say for an e-commerce business that's like $1 million in annual revenue or a couple million, and maybe has a list of like 10,000 subscribers. How often would you send it? What would be the sequence? And then what would be some things that you add periodically, some kind of discounts? How would that look in terms of the emails sent out?
Okay, yeah, great question. So it's quite a big topic. So let's try to kind of break it down a little bit and unpack it. So let's first look in terms of flows and campaigns. So we have, before we start working with an e-commerce brand or when we audit their email account, we usually see that they are sending some emails. And as a result of those emails, they see a small bump in revenue of around 5 to 10%. So what we do is we plan and execute a strategy that's typically able to double that or more. And so after several months of working with an e-com business, we usually see the revenue from emails anything from 25 to 40% of the overall business revenue. And the way that we're able to achieve that is by using emails throughout the entire customer lifecycle. And that's how we look at it. And we do that with several elements that all work together. So first, we set up a complete array of automated email sequences, what's called flows. And these flows, they get triggered in response to events such as a customer purchasing a certain product. So we want to upsell them related products, for example, or someone placed an item in their cart but didn't complete the checkout process, or if we want to convert someone from a first-time buyer into a repeat buyer. So all these examples are for events that we can take care of using automated flows. Now, that's only part of the overall picture. We also want to send one-off campaigns on a regular basis, for example, once or twice a week. And we make these campaigns highly targeted and personalized. I'll unpack that too in a minute, but it's not just about sending promotions by email. That's an important thing to note. We don't just, send sales emails. What we do is we work on nurturing the leads in a way that creates a relationship with the audience. So they keep that brand top of mind. And thanks to that relationship, they keep coming back for more. So if, for example, we're able to bring a business to a point where 30% of their overall revenue is generated on the email marketing channel, then typically half of that, which is around 15%, will be generated by the automated flows. And the other half is attributed to the one-off campaign emails. It's not a hard or fast rule or anything, but it's a phenomena that I've observed. And it also depends on how deeply we have the opportunity to work on the different aspects of the customer journey. For example, with flows, it's very achievable to have automated flows generating 30, 35% additional revenue. And that's even without sending a single manual campaign. But of course, if you don't want to leave any money on the table, then sending campaigns on a regular basis is a must. Now, if we dive deeper and see what kind of email automations or flows we would send, so there are a few that I consider the must-haves. The first one is the welcome flow. This is what you send someone who's a newcomer to your ecosystem when they sign up to your email list. And it's a crucial flow because someone new has expressed interest in your products. And now you have a chance to strike while the iron is hot and to convert that interest into a purchase. Now, what happens in such a flow, you thank them for joining and give them a coupon if you promise that. You show them your best sellers, social media, testimonials, and so on. So a basic welcome flow is a must, but you can also dig deeper. And for example, if you have different categories of products, you can branch that sequence. So if a subscriber was interested in a certain category, then the emails would feature information and offers relevant to that category. Another thing you can do is you can collect email preferences. So you ask your new subscriber to indicate what types of messages they would like to receive, product updates, tips, sales, so on, and how frequently. So do they want to be mailed on a weekly basis, or maybe bi-weekly is okay, maybe once a month? You collect this info up front, so you avoid bombarding them with messages later on, and you also make sure that they would feel that your content is relevant to them. Now, cart abandonment, we already talked about. That's also a must-have, and many stores have it. But some may not know that a browse abandonment is also one of the highest revenue flows that you can have. So basically, browse abandonment is when someone who's already on your email list, they decide one day to visit your site and look for products, but they end up exiting without buying anything. So this flow brings them back to complete the purchase. Another one that's also a must-have is what's called a post-purchase flow. And I'll be talking now about a post-purchase flow that's meant for first-time buyers. So when someone buys from you for the first time, you want to make the customer feel great about the purchase, and perhaps get a review at some point, and also do what I called turbocharge that purchase. So you turbocharge the purchase with things like an upsell, a cross-sell, a subscription if you have it, or a review request. So you can do all that with the sequence, depending on what you're selling, of course. But the main thing is being able to delight the customer with a great communication experience after they have made their first purchase, and also to possibly increase their lifetime value by generating an additional purchase when they're still in hot buying mode. Now, I can go on and on. Let me know if you want more of that.
That's good. So the main flows would be welcome flow and cart abandonment flow and a post-purchase flow. So that seems about enough. And in terms of the campaigns, so I imagine you would have some campaigns for holidays, like, oh, here is a Valentine's Day discount or shopping holidays. What else is there in terms of regular campaigns?
So some of the campaigns are promotional campaigns, but I believe that it is much more important to actually utilize campaigns in order to develop that relationship with the customers, to nurture them and make them feel that this is a brand that doesn't just sell, but rather give important information, give value, And we can also talk about what makes an email great. Why would people actually want to receive your emails as opposed to, you know, this is a promotion. So
Yeah.
So I guess when we send an email, there are a few things that we might be looking for. It's either to nurture the relationship with our customers, and we do that with the, you know, with the valuable information, tips, ideas on how to better use the products and things like that. And we also want to kind of send them back to our site, and I can talk about it a little bit later. And then we have the promotional emails. Now, in any case, what you want to make sure is that you take care of three things: the value, the visual, and the verbal of the email. So we call it the V trifecta. So value, it means that this is where a lot of people get it all wrong, by the way. Most of the emails are more like a brochure that shouts sale, sale, one email after the other. But if we want people to keep our brand top of mind, and if we want them to know, like, and trust us, the way to do it is not shout sales, but rather it's to send an email that's super relevant, and it's personalized, and it's helpful, or even fun, by the way. In other words, you give them values so they would be looking forward to your next emails and they want to open them. So we follow the motto of sending the right message to the right people at the right time, and make sure we add value instead of the usual, you know, push for sale that others might be doing. Now, the second element is the visual. You know, making sure that the brand voice is expressed accurately and congruently with all the other channels that you're communicating with your customers. So there's a lot of work being done on the graphic design side of each email, so they all look and feel branded, and also sets your brand apart and just look pleasing to the eye as well. So we have value and visual. Now, the third element is the verbal, the quality of the copywriting, the message, you know, the choice of words, the approach, and also being in the brand voice. And it all comes down to how we make the copy to be the most effective, so the reader performs the action that we want them to, whether it's complete a purchase or click to our site, leave us review, and so on. Now, so I know it's a lot to take in, but to summarize, the value, most important, then the visual and the verbal that makes an email work and convert. And a quick tip here, we mentioned the relationship and generating a purchase, but actually, most people don't know that, but when you send traffic to your site from your email list, you're actually getting a serious boost of SEO love from Google. And that's because Google values repeat visitors and also visitors who stay longer on your site. And that's exactly what you get when you use emails for traffic. So turns out email is a powerful SEO tool as well.
All right, very cool. So I'm thinking, how can we apply that to our own newsletter, Domain Magnate? How can we develop a better personal relationship with our subscribers? Got any tips that might be applicable here? Because we don't sell any e-commerce products. Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
Yes. So when you're not an e-commerce seller, but rather in your case, I would direct less of my attention into the design parts and more into the copywriting and the value. And with value, I mean, you have to kind of get into your reader's mind and try to understand what would they find valuable, what types of information, what kind of tips and ideas that you can share with them, and definitely work on that.
So that's what we try to do. We provide value through covering some recent news in the industry, through sharing some interesting information and articles, as well as our own articles and podcast recordings, and like my personal industry thoughts, things like that.
Yeah, so definitely when you are posting a new article on your site, you can email your list, and then you get the SEO love, of course, but you also get them realize that you are actually you're putting out there information that could be relevant and valuable for them. But you can also use an email just as a standalone information unit. So, short email doesn't have to be long, 300 words or less, and tell them something you've recently learned or something that could be valuable for them.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so recently we've been testing different frequency of mailings. Previously, I was very inconsistent with mailing, and then we decided to start doing it weekly. And what I've noticed is a lot of people unsubscribe, like each email would have several people unsubscribing. And our list is not very big, it's just under 1,000 people. So each email would have like maybe 5 people unsubscribing or so. And I was a bit concerned, maybe we are emailing too much. So we decided to email less frequently. Now it's once every 2 weeks or so. But I'm curious, is there like a better way to determine that? How do you decide what's the best frequency? And
That's a great question.
Is it like common that you would see people unsubscribe every time you email?
So I think it's a lot about expectations, because we have a client that sends an email every 2 days, and there isn't inherently something good or bad about it. It's actually very profitable for them, but it might not work for someone else, because you need to think about a few things. First is, you've got to set the expectations up front about this when someone signs up. And you've got to give people an easy way of managing their preferences. So if they only want to receive a weekly email, they won't get everything just once a week. Or if they want to receive just a monthly email, then you can put them in a segment and basically send them only one email per month. Now, the second thing is that you've got to keep a certain consistency and cadence that people can expect to. So in your case, if you were sending an email once a month and suddenly began sending twice a week, then people might not look very favorably upon it. So, I'm not talking, by the way, about if we're in e-commerce, Black Friday, when it's expected to be sending an emails every day. And even then, we'd actually ask in an email if they want these announcements, because people who are interested, we want to be sure we get them excited, but those who are not, just filter them out. Otherwise, they'll do more harm than good, because they will hurt your deliverability and they will unsubscribe. Now, the third thing is that you've got to make sure that each and every email feels valuable and interesting to the people you're sending to, so they begin to expect your emails and enjoy them. So I'd say, if you're thinking, Michael, how many emails should I send for any segment of your list? I'd recommend starting with 1 email per week. See how that's going. You look at the open rates, you look at the click rates, the sales conversion if you're selling, and if you get the good metrics, then, and also if your unsubscribes are low, then you can start sending a 2nd email per week. You check the metrics carefully. If you're still getting good click rates and good sales conversion and not much unsubscribes, then you can start testing out 3 emails a week. In your case, you were starting to send more frequently and got unsubscribes, but I'm personally subscribed to email lists that send almost every day, like Ramit Sethi's of how I'll teach you to be rich. So there's no recipe here of how many emails your audience wants and how much it will and how many would work. And I also wouldn't want to assume anything just because personally I like or don't like receiving emails. So you've got to test and you let the numbers tell you the truth. For most of our clients, we found that 2 emails per week is the sweet spot. We've some at 3 emails per week. And actually those are the ones making the most profit out of emails. So if anything, if you're sending good, high quality emails, you'll often find that the more you send, the merrier. Just be sure to test it out.
Okay, very cool. And so Daniel, you're clearly quite interested and passionate about emails. How did you really get into that? How did your passion for emails get started?
Oh, so I actually got into it by a chance encounter. About 12 years ago, I was working in the marketing department of a company, and we weren't actually doing much in terms of emails, more of SEO and paid ads. And one of our clients, we became friends, and he told me about this new thing. And I'm talking 12 years ago, right? So it's a new thing, selling online courses. And he knows a guy who's making millions selling those courses to his email list. So I thought, interesting idea. I'm open to exploring. And long story short, we ended up working together as business partners for 6 years and managed to accumulate a huge email list. And after we parted ways, I tried launching all sorts of cool business ideas, which ended up failing one after the other. And I guess this string of failures, it was very challenging to deal with emotionally, very, very humbling, being on the deep low end of the entrepreneurial roller coaster. And at some point, I almost gave up. And from the depths of my entrepreneurial low, I had this realization that I'm chasing all these shiny objects, and I need to go back to basics and look what was the secret sauce behind the success of my first business. And I realized that it was the email list that we had and how we nurtured it. So I was thinking, if I double down on it, it will save me from having to, give up the dream and go get a job now. So at that time, I was building a site around the topic that I'm very passionate about, health and nutrition. And so I decided to put emails at the center of it and to work hard on building a list. And sure enough, within a few months, I hit the milestone of 10,000 subscribers. And I started getting all these replies from people thanking me for the information and how they needed it, how it helped them. And that's when I knew that I'm on the right track. Now, fast forward a couple of years later and seeing more success with another business that was focused around an email newsletter, the idea came up to start an email marketing service for other business owners. And finally, in 2019, I launched Email Composed.
All right, very cool. Well, thanks for sharing. That's quite interesting. That's similar to a time when I was also like in the beginning, then I was doing a bunch of different things. I had lots of different businesses in the first few years after I started, like 15 years ago. And just like having I have this idea, I have this idea, let's do that, let's do this. And most things failed as things usually do, and as new ideas usually do. And then also at some point, I sort of sat down and just looked at all my projects, at all the things I've been working on, and started researching to understand which ones of them really worked, which ones of them were profitable and successful and enjoyable as well, and realized that it was what united them all was that I bought some sites and then I sold them, and just this. And that's how this idea was born also, just to keep flipping sites, to keep buying different businesses and finding good deals and buying businesses, seeing how to grow them and growing them. And that's pretty much what I've been doing as well for the past, now about 16 years, but more specifically, I guess the past 10 years or so, after I've really more consciously realize that this is the structure of the business, this is the plan. And that's really cool. Once you have that focus, once you know what works for you, what you're good at, you can really double down on that.
Yeah, I think it's really fascinating how both of us, we've actually seen the online marketing world change and evolve so much from 15 years ago until now. It looks completely different, but I guess emails have always been there. Did you have large email lists in your previous businesses as well? Did you know how
not really.
important they are?
I always neglected email. Still do. I know I shouldn't. but it just, yeah, it kind of like takes more time and effort. It's not really my thing to do email frequently. But now I have an assistant who in our team who manages the email newsletter. So for all our listeners who might be surprised why we suddenly start sending out emails frequently and consistently, that's because I'm not the one doing it. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
as a business owner, it's very hard to keep sending emails consistently. Absolutely.
Yeah, but the list, I've always neglected that. So the list of grew organically for the past 10 years or so for our main business, for Domain Magnet, and it's still pretty small. For many of the businesses we buy, we actually have some pretty big lists. Like one business we acquired, and by the way, that's something I wanted to ask you also. So one business we acquired, and we didn't really pay attention. Like we did some checks, but it had a list of about 200,000, and we didn't really know how to like evaluate it, right? So because you have to send out some emails and then see what responses you get, and then like see what is the open rate and all that. And the owner wasn't sending any emails for a while. Like he didn't send any emails for like a few years. So we didn't know how to value it. So we didn't really take into account as much when we acquired the business. And what's interesting is now after we've acquired it, our team has reactivated it and started sending out some emails. And the response rate is very low. The sales are very low because the list was so inactive, and it's been assembled over like 10 years of the history of the business, and most of those emails, most of those subscribers joined in the beginning, and I see that quite often. So what I'm curious is, how can you really evaluate the value of lists like that, and do they even have value if you have subscribers who joined like 5-10 years ago and haven't had any emails for years? Are those valuable? How do you evaluate it?
So yeah, you hit on a very critical point here. If the list is relatively old and it hasn't been emailed to, then you can't expect it to be responsive. It might even be very low value or even worthless. So I guess the frequency of communication is very important. There are some other metrics that you should look at, and actually I think that's one of the elements. Email marketing in general is one of the elements that is not always understood by buyers and sellers of websites. Because when you purchase a business, you want to cover your investment as quickly as possible, and you want to mitigate your risk. And for that, you want to find out which are the levers that would be the most effective to pull and to give you the highest ROI. So when we look at the return from email marketing, it's typically the highest of all other channels. I can go more into why it's so profitable.
No, so how do you evaluate email lists? And if it's an older list, does it actually have any value if it hasn't been used in like a year or 2 or 3?
So you actually can't know if the email hasn't been emailed to. You don't have any history of results, any recent history of results to evaluate. So the only way that you can do is if you actually evaluate it. If you actually send emails to that list and and evaluate the results.
Let's say you're buying a business and it has an email list, so you could probably do that as part of the inspection, as part of the assessment process. So how would you do it? What's the way to do it with like one email that you send out and then value what is the open rate? What kind of email would you send? How would you do it?
Okay, so what you're presenting here is a bit of an extreme case where the email hasn't been when the list hasn't been emailed to at all. But what we usually see with e-commerce brands, they would usually email their list. They would at least during holidays, they would, Black Friday or Valentine's Day, depending on the business, they would definitely send emails in that period, and they would usually have a couple of more of automations, such as the abandoned cart. So people are generally getting emails. So there are a few factors that you need to look at, such as the open rates of these emails, the click rate, meaning how many people out of all the people that we've sent to, how many people actually clicked that email. And there are other factors. And we actually have an online assessment tool that you can use to know what are the gaps and opportunities in a business when you're doing due diligence, or if you're about to sell the business and you want to see if there are any levers so you can pull before you send to increase the profits. And so basically, if you want, I can drop the link for the show notes.
Sure,
it's an online assessment.
Yeah, we'll add it later.
You can, yeah. So I'll give you the link, and then definitely just go through the different questions and understand where you're standing in terms of how much money is being left on the table.
And can we talk a bit about the value of email subscribers? How can you actually evaluate how much a list is worth? If you were to buy a list? So for example, recently we've been doing some paid email placements for Domain Magnet. We wanted to grow our list, and what we've done is used this service. I forget the name now. You basically that connects you to different newsletters, and then you just pay for placements of your list, and then often people would click and subscribe. And what I've noticed is it was really quite expensive. I think we've done a small try. We've spent maybe $3,000-4,000, and we got probably like less than 100 extra subscribers. So the cost per new subscriber was quite high. But do you have any kind of more general data? How much is the cost for a new subscriber in most e-commerce businesses? Or what is reasonable to spend in order to get a new subscriber?
So it's an interesting question, because each business is different in terms of their average order value and other metrics. So there isn't, as much as I would love to give like a number here, it's more about looking at the historical performance of these emails, kind of understand where they're standing. So first of all, you do an assessment that takes into account how many subscribers, when they were last contacted, what were the open rates, the click rates, what was the sales conversion. If you don't have any data, meaning if no emails were sent, then probably you're not looking at a very valuable list, because people, if they don't hear from you for a few months, they are probably not going to be very responsive to any subsequent emails that you send. So assuming that the list has been mailed, you need to look at the past performance and also see what's missing. Are they missing key flows? Are there some campaigns sent which converted nicely, but not enough campaigns sent? And so basically things like that. That's how you go about evaluating if the list is indeed worth or not. And if you're talking about mailing with other people's lists, when they mail for you and you pay a fixed amount, is that what you mean as well? Yeah. So I would look at their past results when they emailed businesses that are similar to yours. What kind of click rates did they get, and what kind of sales conversion?
Do you do that? Do you recommend that your clients to go and use other people's lists in order to promote their products?
Yes, I think it's actually a great idea to do these either as solo, meaning you would just pay for the mailing, or just exchange. You mail for them and they mail for you. It all depends if you find a good partner for that, and if you have a good if your products would resonate with their audience, and if their product would resonate with your audience.
All right, very cool. Well, thanks, Daniel. That's been an interesting discussion, and I've learned quite a bit about email. Like if you were to sum it up, of course, you mentioned quite a few different tips. If you could sum it up and just maybe give kind of a couple key takeaways for people who manage different email lists for e-commerce businesses or others, what are some things that they can really pay attention to?
So I believe that email marketing is one of the first things that the buyers and sellers of websites should address, because it has a major influence on the revenue of the business and also its longevity. So you've got to look deeper into what kind of automations that business has, what kind of campaigns are they sending, what's the frequency, what is the performance of these campaigns, and make sure that either it is being well taken care of, or if there are gaps and opportunities, then fill them up. And that's why we also have this the online assessment that you can find in the show notes, I believe. Now, the second thing is that you should utilize emails at every stage of the customer journey to attract, convert, and delight. So attract them to view your products, stay on your ecosystem so you can mail them again, look at your brand as attractive and solves their problems, and also then to convert them from first purchase to a repeat purchase, and from a repeat purchase into a brand ambassador or brand advocate. And also to delight them, just make a great customer experience, anticipate their questions, anticipate what they might be concerned about, help them, give them tips. And the third thing I would say is that emails are key to scaling your paid ads or influencer campaigns quicker and safer, because you're able to really increase the customer lifetime value.
All right, very cool. Well, thank you. So how can people find out more about your business or reach out to you online?
So I'm Daniel at emailcompose.com, and they're welcome to go to our website. You're welcome to visit our website, emailcompose.com, and do the online assessment to see how much money you're leaving on the table with your emails.
Okay, well, thank you, Daniel. Good to chat. And to all the listeners, have a look at our newsletter. Go to domainmagnate.com/newsletter to join our bi-weekly updates. Thank you.
It was a pleasure, Michael. Thanks for having me.
See you next time.
Domain Magnet is a leader in buying and selling online businesses with a proven track record of expertise gained from over 300 deals since 2004. To learn more about how we can help you acquire or exit a profitable online business today, head over to domainmagnet.com for more details.